Call the meeting to order. Those who care to, please stand for an opening prayer and pledge of allegiance.
Thank you. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day and thank you for bringing us here safely. Just pray, Lord, for your wisdom and direction for this council tonight and all that we do and all that we say. We just pray for our community. Pray for our leadership and wisdom in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. To start the meeting off, we have a proclamation. It is National Crime Victims' Rights Week. So I'm going to read this proclamation and then I'm going to present it to Brandy Bartell, who will be accepting on behalf of the Victim Center. Whereas Americans are the victims of 20 million crimes each year, affecting individuals and communities, and whereas reaching and serving all victims of crime is essential to supporting thriving communities, because those who receive holistic services and support are more likely to remain invested in their communities. And whereas dedicated victim service providers are working every day to meet the needs of crime victims, yet there are still too many victims without meaningful access to rights and services. And whereas engaging a broader array of healthcare providers, community leaders, faith organizations, educators, and businesses can provide new links between victims and services that improve their safety, healing, and access to justice. And whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit to ensuring that all victims of crime, especially those who are challenging to reach or serve, are afforded their rights and receive a trauma-informed response. And whereas the City of Republic is hereby dedicated to strengthening victims and survivors in the aftermath of crime, building resilience in our communities, and our victim responders, and working for justice for all victims and survivors. Now therefore, I, Jeff Usry, Mayor of the City of Republic in the State of Missouri, do hereby proclaim the week of April 8th through 14th, 2018 as Crime Victims' Rights Week, and express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims of crime so they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. In testimony whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the seal of the City of Republic this 3rd day of April, 2018. This is Bartell.
Good evening. I just wanted to first and foremost thank you all so much for inviting me here tonight and for your leadership in creating this proclamation and recognizing the need for this type of attention and awareness and focus and prioritizing those who are hurting in our communities. Crime victims and their services and the need to assist those is a community issue. It's not just an issue that affects a small population. These issues affect all of us. It affects our school systems, it affects our workforce development, it affects our criminal justice system, and certainly it affects our health system. And so we appreciate the awareness that this type of opportunity allows for the conversations that can begin from these types of activities. And then also coming from a very exciting day, a historical moment for our county in particular, as we begin the very beginning stages of strategic planning and preparing for a family justice center, the first in the state of Missouri. That's something that we should be proud of as a community. Looking forward to how we can all work better together in a more efficient way that is going to just build upon our success and our compassion as a community. It's something we should all be excited about, and I'm looking forward to the next steps, and I hope you all will be paying attention to what will come from that, and I know this city will be a big partner in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for being here tonight. At this point, I open up citizen participation. Anyone who would like to speak to anything not on the agenda, please state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Step to the podium. Anyone who would like to speak to anything not on the agenda? Seeing none, citizen participation is closed. Need a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. On to boards, commission, committee schedule. Of note, city council meeting is, next city council meeting is April 17th, and the next one after that will be May 1st, 2018. There is a planning and zoning meeting coming up on April 9th, 2018. On to old business, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of bill number 18-18.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Brenda?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 12.92 acres from agricultural AG to general commercial C3, owned by Mary Sue Hartman and Norma Jean Chapeau, and located at 6518 West Farm Road 148.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second for final passage of bill number 18-18?
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. We have Mr. Tyson here for any questions or concerns, comments he may answer before we move on to a vote. Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Duran?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Bill passes 7-0. Need a motion and a second for the second reading of bill number 18-19.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Brenda?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 2.5 acres from medium-density single-family residential R1M to local commercial C1 and owned by Mary Ann Swift, Linda Lanning, James R. O'Neill, and Joe Bob O'Neill, and located at 649 East Elm Street.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second for final passage of bill number 18-19?
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. You've had your recommendation from planning and zoning. You heard citizen input at the last meeting regarding this. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns for Mr. Tyson? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Duran?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Bill passes 7-0. Need a motion and a second for the second reading of bill number 18-20.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Brenda?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 66 acres located near South Lynn Avenue, South Farm Road 89, south of Miller Road, from medium-density single-family residential R1M to Planned Development District PDD, and the approval of the development plan for Valley Trails PD 18-01.
Thank you. Is there a motion and a second for final passage of bill number 18-20?
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Again, we have had a recommendation from planning and zoning. We've had a lot of public input. Now, does council have any questions, comments, or concerns for Mr. Tyson? Mr. Jones?
This, obviously, there have been a lot of questions that have been asked and mostly answered. Some will remain to be answered in the future. But something in particular being the flow of traffic on Grace Street as a collector. I know that classifications as such have a certain amount of, there's a, a minimum or a maximum associated with each of those designations. And I'm curious as if the city's done its diligence in defining it. I know that definition exists, but what is the estimated flow in units? Number one, what is that designation? And then what is the estimated flow to Grace as a collector?
So the classification of planned thoroughfares is dependent on a variety of different factors: spacing from other planned thoroughfares, does it take you from one arterial to another, does it take you from one destination to another, but one of those factors is anticipated volume. How much will this particular roadway carry in terms of volume? So the City of Republic's adopted ranges for those local streets are anticipated to carry volumes of 1,500 average trips a day or less. A collector could range from 1,500 to 6,000. If you look at this particular collector, you've got a relatively short stretch. And so where does it fall within that range from potentially 1,500 to 6,000? If you look at the number of houses between Main and Lynn that could potentially be collected by this thoroughfare, and we looked at this in a very crude manner. Again, keep in mind, I'm not a traffic engineer, so the numbers I'm putting out here are sort of general estimates. But if you look at that and you're very conservative to make sure that if you're going to err, you err on the high side of this, and you assume that that this particular portion of Grace would collect from several hundred homes potentially. Like I say, I doubt it would ever collect from this many homes, but even if you assume somewhere in the 400 to 500 range, the number of average daily trips generated from collecting even that many would be somewhere 2,500 trips or fewer. So you'd still be on the low end of how a collector would function at that point. I think the reality is when you look at the geography and you look at how traffic is likely to flow from some of those neighborhoods, certainly the traffic from the Valley Trails development is without a doubt going to be collected by Grace. But west of there, those existing neighborhoods have other alternate routes to get to other arterial thoroughfares. So not all of that traffic is going to go through the Valley developments to Lynn. Those trips, it's not directional. It's just average daily in any direction. So I think you probably end up with a traffic volume on this particular part of Grace that's at the very low end of that range for a collector. And like I say, it potentially even functions as a local. And with regard to traffic volume, certainly the geography, it functions as a collector because it collects from neighborhoods and sends it out to arterials. But in terms of volume, I think it ends up being at that low end. Does that answer the question?
It does.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns from council before we move on to a vote? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Duran?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Bill passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Tyson.
Thank you.
We have no new business, as with any election day that we have in council. We don't know what's going to happen, so we don't have any new business because we would have to take that up at the beginning of the next meeting and make things odd and uncomfortable, so we're not going to do that. So we're going to move on to resolutions. Resolution number 18-R-14. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the bid for the subsurface and asphalt for the Owen Park Trail and authorizing the execution of a contract agreement. Need a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Mayfield.
Good evening. As you may recall, we received a Recreational Trails Program grant through the Missouri Department of Natural Resources Division of State Parks in September of last year for construction of a new trail within Owen Park, along with some additional amenities. We've worked diligently on this project to move it along as quickly as possible because we know that this trail is going to be a huge benefit for the neighbors around Owen Park. We recently concluded the sealed bid process for subsurface and asphalt for the trail itself. We received 4 bids on the project. Those 4 bids can be found on your exhibit. American Paving Company actually came in as the lowest bidder with a total cost of $64,810. Our grant application that we submitted in February of last year estimated $67,200 for contract labor and materials for subsurface and asphalt. So American Paving actually came in under what we estimated for that portion of the project. And I did want to mention, because this project is partially funded through a federal grant, we did have to get prior approval of our bidding process and our recommended contractor prior to bringing it to you tonight. So that has already been done. Approval was granted by the grant management staff. We've used American Paving for 2 other projects recently. After speaking with Wayne Hawkins, Park and Facility Maintenance Superintendent, he stated that the work they've done has been of high quality. He's been satisfied with the end product, so we are confident that they will do a good job with the trail. I do have an amendment request for this particular resolution. We're requesting an amendment to the contract amount. Upon review of the bid documents, after they had already gone out, sent out to the companies, we realized that there was no language included regarding payment, maintenance, and performance bonds. Those are required for projects in excess of $50,000. That was just an oversight. I used a bid document from a recent asphalt project, and it was under that $50,000 threshold, so we just didn't catch it before it went out. We did contact Mr. Killingsworth with American Paving, and he in turn provided us with a quote to get those necessary bonds that he would need, and that amount was $1,037. So we're recommending that the contract price be changed from $64,810 to $65,847 to include that additional $1,037 for the bonds. So recommending that, and also recommending approval of American Paving for this particular project.
Okay, so before we move on to questions or comments about this, I would ask if we have a motion to amend bill number 18-R-14 by changing the estimated contract price from $64,810 to $65,847 in both the resolution and attachment 2.
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? That carries 7-0, and now we'll move on. Do we have questions, comments, concerns for Ms. Mayfield regarding Mr. Dyke?
The additional amount still will be covered under the grant that you received.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Approximately how long will the trail be?
It's approximately 0.67 of a mile, so not quite a mile, a little over half a mile.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, we'll move on to a vote on the bill as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Mayfield. Resolution number 18-R-15, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Valley Park Estates LC for the extension of approximately 2,600 linear feet of water services for the development of Valley Trail. Motion and a second.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This will be another project where it's a public-private partnership like we did with Garden Business Park, where the city will be installing 2,600 linear feet of water line, which will be reimbursed back to the city as these lots are developed. And so basically on the Exhibit A, you can see what we're doing is this MOU is basically to document a good faith to say that we'll negotiate in good faith with the Valley Trails to get an agreement and bring that developer's agreement back to City Council for approval. But this is kind of the Exhibit A kind of provides the landscape for what the negotiating points will be. Again, it's 2,600 linear feet of water line. We'll have till about July 31st to get it installed, and pretty much all the other utilities are going to be responsibility of Valley Trails, but this is a partnership that we're working on to help drive this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns from council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. On to reports from staff. Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I saw our Green County prosecuting attorney came in and left. He was supposed to be here for a proclamation, so I want to elaborate a little bit on what Ms. Bartell was discussing about the Family Justice Center. Today and tomorrow, there's a 2-day strategic planning session where there's about 100 members from Greene County, the region, that are participating. I'm one of those. I serve on the Greene County Domestic Violence Board as the chairman, and so Lieutenant Wheeler was in that same event today. And this is going to be a really a great, it's a need that's needed in Greene County, but it's family justice centers are kind of like I hate to use the word a one-stop. It is a one-stop location where victims can come in and they're not being moved from department to department dealing with domestic violence, and they can come into one central place. It's safe, it's secure, and this would be the first one like it in the state of Missouri. And so it's kind of a landmark deal. It's unfortunate that it's this situation, but I know that Mr. Patterson has worked very hard to help drive this along with a lot of other county leaders. It was just really nice to see a collaborative effort of everyone getting together as to what that center needs to be and how to best meet the needs of the victims. That is increasing all the more, but how they can come into a center, find the I don't want to say one-stop shop, but it is a one-stop shop where they can deal with they get civil legal services, they can find dealing with schools, finding jobs, clothing, things of those nature, how to find security, how the courts will work, how to get restraining orders and different things that go, I think it's the word ex parte, things that go on that I would have no clue, and how they can find that assistance without having to go from division to division. And I'm just really proud of that. We've got together and worked on it. We'll be working on it again tomorrow. So looking forward to rolling that out and just what that's going to mean for our county and what's going to mean for our state, because I do believe it will be kind of like a catalyst for driving it forward. It'd be kind of something that we can use as a benchmark, but it's going to be a big vision and a big plan. So looking forward to rolling that out. And I know that Dan was going to speak to it, but I wanted to speak on behalf since he had to leave. He's got a lot going on, coordinating this event, and I know he wanted to accept that proclamation. He's running a little bit behind for all the work that we did today. I barely got back, so I know that he was pretty busy. Real quickly, you can see and hear an update in the admin report. I'm looking at an April 22nd vision and planning session with the council where we can talk about the goals and objectives moving forward. As the city staff has identified 6 areas from our January 18th and 19th planning process, and kind of want to get together with council and talk about what does that look like for the city for the next 18 months and the direction that we're going. So looking forward, I will check with everyone's calendars and just see if that's available, but it will be about a 2 or 3 hour session where we can sit down and just talk about next steps with the city, things that the council would like to see, and basically bring the council up to date on projects that are ongoing and things that we're working towards and projects that are coming into the city. I met this week with the auditor as a follow-up, and I look forward to getting that report out fairly soon. Thankfully, there was no material findings. That's always good. There's always recommendations for how we could do things better. There's always things that are going to be redundant that we continuously add to the audit that we're going to continuously bring into the management letter that will never come out of there. I want to make sure that we keep ethical standards, transparency in the management letter recommendations, that every year it's not removed because we've achieved it. I want to make sure that's added. So we had a very good dialogue with the auditor. They've made some, I think there was 29 journal entries, and Debbie's not here, but I commend the work that her and her staff did to get that audit done. Much better than the one we did last year, and I look forward to next year being even better than this year. But I look forward to getting that report to council. And that's all I have for tonight. The rest of it's in the admin report. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Thanks, sir. For the mayor's report, I'm just gonna talk about a couple of things that David has in his administrator's report, and that's that coming up, we have a citywide garage sale this month. I don't recall the exact date of the garage sale, but I know that directly following that, on Saturday, April 21st, we're gonna have our citywide cleanup event. It's the second one we've had, so we've seen a lot of good results from that, where people can put stuff out to the curb and it's not lingering in yards and sitting out by the street. It's getting picked up and taken to the dump rather than sitting in our city. And then something else I wanted to comment on was, I plan to have him here, but the security cameras at J.R. Martin Park, a Republic High School student named Michael Forrester selected the recent vandalism issues that we had at J.R. Martin Park. And for those of you who don't know, there's a lot of people that really enjoy our Republic Veterans Memorial, and that's kind of a sacred ground. And we've had people out there vandalizing it, and talk about the worst of the worst people. But he took it upon himself to make this a project, and he went through a fundraising process, raised $905 to purchase security cameras that are installed. I think they're installed now over there at the AMP and the Veterans Memorial. So we want to thank Mr. Forrester for choosing this topic and for his efforts on that project, because again, that's, our Veterans Memorial is a big deal, and if we could catch whoever's doing that with cameras, we would certainly love to see them have their day in court. So,
One last point.
Mr. Cameron.
I apologize, I missed one key thing. Garrett, I thank you for putting this together, but part of our comprehensive plan in the back of this is a community survey that we're gonna be doing. They'll be going out to the residents, so hopefully Ryan will get a big blitz in the newspaper and get everybody to fill this survey out, because this is very important to the comprehensive plan, what the needs, wants, and expectations are of the community moving forward, and just to glean that information so that bring the community into the overall comprehensive plan rather than staff putting it together. It's very helpful if we need the community's input, so we'll be doing a kind of a blitz to get that information out, but that draft survey is in the back of this admin report as well, so just wanted to bring note to that.
And last thing, it's election day, so good luck to all the candidates, and the polls close in about 3 minutes. So everybody who's been sitting on pins and needles will soon get to see how that turned out, probably on the 9 o'clock news. So I'm going to turn it over to council report, start with Mr. Smith.
I've got nothing new. Been busy the past week, so.
Okay.
Other than having a child, so.
I was going to get to that at the end. So everybody knows this last Thursday, Mr. Smith and his wife welcomed Henry into the world, a new baby boy, and I know they're overly excited to never sleep again. And
Sleeping's not been the issue, it's getting him to go to sleep.
Well,
He
congratulations.
eventually goes to sleep.
Well, before long, his not sleeping will affect your not sleeping. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ann.
Super excited about the citywide cleanup. It's an amazing event. It's always fun to see all the stuff that I can gather up next to the curb. I'm super excited. Also the survey, that's going to be a really neat thing. Great job to Debbie and Megan on that audit. And the whole team, they've done a great job. So good luck to all of the candidates.
Thank you. Mr. Dykeman.
The only thing I have is I talked to Debbie yesterday, and we talked about the work that's done on the audit and kind of how it was coming out. And I told her, of course Megan's been gone, but I said, y'all have done a great job of getting things. I said, I remember what it was last year, and I said, you're probably for several years we're going to have some things until we get things, and the new software is coming along, and excited about that. So getting ready to start training on it. So
April's a busy month with the software update.
yes.
All right. Mr. Bashirs.
Before I thank these people for doing something, I want to make sure they did it. Dwayne, we were all involved the other night with the wreck.
Yes.
Okay, and Chief, I assume you all were too. I bought a 15-car pileup the other night. We went to snow on James River. And the public's finest, our first responders were there, I'm certain, probably for hours in working that wreck. At the same time, we had some issues, even in the city, that required a lot of attention also. So thank you very much. It seems like always their work is always in the coldest, windiest, wettest day that can be imaginable. But we thank you guys. Appreciate you.
And this is not the time of year we should be dealing with that kind of thing. Mr. Jones.
Oh, just with recent events and zoning changes and things, I think had a lot of citizen participation, which is always welcome. Input, also a lot of feedback and information from staff. Garrett and Andrew, appreciate that and the work that you put in it. It certainly helps make our jobs easier to be able to have that sort of information available when we ask for it, to make that an educated decision about things. And I appreciate that very much so. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson.
Oh, not a whole lot, just echo Charlie and our first responders. They do a lot of stuff for us. We wouldn't be surviving very well without them. And that's about it.
Thank you. Mr. Sell.
As a current member and a former board member of the Republic Chamber, I just want to thank Andrea Barnwart, the executive director of the Chamber, gave her resignation, and she will be leaving her post there May 31st. And I know that the board of at the Chamber is looking at candidates and looking to replace and fill that position. If anybody knows someone, I just want to kind of bring that to light. That is a kind of a thankless job. I know there's a lot that it goes and is entailed with it, but it's also one of those components that go towards the betterment of our business community. And as a business member, I just want to thank her for her efforts and her time with us. So,
thank you, Mr. Ison. Do you have anything to? Well, the last thing I'll do is thank Mr. Ison, because I know that he's helped us navigate through some tricky waters over the past. I mean, he kind of jumped right into the fire. So, done a great job and helped us along the way and kept us on track to doing the right thing. So, all while driving back and forth from Kansas City. So, thank you very much. With that, we do have an executive session, so no further action other than announcing adjournment by the mayor shall take place after an executive session that is scheduled as the last matter on the agenda unless otherwise stated on the agenda or as allowed per RSMO 610.02. We will be covering RSMO 610.021.1 pending and or potential litigation, closed session, closed vote, closed record. Do I have a motion and a second to go into executive session?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Self?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman?
Aye.
Councilmember Duran?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. The regular meeting is adjourned. In a 5-minute recess, we will continue with executive session.